So, okay, mate, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us what your business is.
Okay, so I'm Andy Furniss and I own and operate the Petit Train Guernsey.
Okay, Andy. So how long have you done that for?
Well, I bought the business off the previous owner at the end of 2019. Sorry, end of 2018, correct?
Yep.
Last year seems to have sort of missed us all, isn't it? Yeah. I drove it for a season. So the train's been on the island now for, this is coming up its sixth year on the island.
Yeah.
And I drove it for a year because like driving it really fitted around the school day for me.
Right. Okay.
With my kids, both my boys at school, my wife's a teacher, and it really worked. Before that, I was doing shift work for Arini or driving trucks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I drove it for the summer season, and I'd done quite a lot of tourist work in the past in other places around the world, and I sort of applied for it and got the job, and it was great money and it was a good laugh. And you're always, the great thing about the train is you're always working with happy people. That's the best thing about it. And yeah, so I drove it for a year, and then they offered it to me in about October 2018, and
okay.
Yeah.
So when you started driving it, were you still working full time elsewhere or part time elsewhere, or did you just sort of dive in and?
No, well, we moved here how long we've been here now? This is our 4th year. So we were in the Falkland Islands before that,
Blimey.
and before that in Wiltshire, and I came from West Cornwall. Yeah. So we were we made a conscious decision in 2014 that we'd had enough of the UK and wanted to move. Yeah. And my wife wanted to get back into full-time teaching after the kids came along. And so we started looking abroad. Now, we'd lived and worked in Australia before. I was driving trucks and we were doing all sorts of things. But the Falkland Islands came up. My dad's a veteran of the Falklands War, so it was always on my radar to go down there. Okay. And it was a really good package. So we went down there. She started teaching. And I had all sorts of truck licenses and cranes and coach licenses and things. So I basically walked into work down there. And tourism is their second biggest economy earner in the Falkland Islands.
Yep.
Everything stops when a cruise ship comes in down there. Very similar to here, similar sort of numbers.
Where do their cruise ships come from?
Well, they're mainly on Antarctic cruises. It's big, like Antarctic cruising is a big deal now, and so they sort of start Ushuaia in Argentina, or they come down the Chilean coast and round Cape Horn.
Okay.
And they do the Falkland Islands, and they do Antarctica, South Georgia, that kind of stuff. And
so what did your partner do for work in Argentina?
Well, Falkland Islands, we've got to be careful here, mate. Falklands aren't
yeah, sorry.
We can't say the same. We can't say those two things in the same sentence. But
yeah,
she was a primary school teacher. So she was a primary school teacher, and I wasn't working. We made a massive family shift to do that, and it was a huge decision. I'd had 11 years working in special education in the UK, yeah. And I'd had enough, and before that I was driving trucks all over Europe, and so we made this decision to move away and start, not so much start again, but just shift what we were doing. And but I went straight into work down there driving. Down there you've got a few skills and you're straight into work, and if you can turn up and you don't drink, you're laughing. And of course, there's only 3,000 people, so anything in the private sector is really well paid.
Yeah.
And so I went into driving coaches and minibuses, running people backwards and forwards to the airport. And when the cruise ships came in, I was driving coaches on tours, and then I started tour guiding, and I really got into the tourism thing down there and really enjoyed it. So when we came here, so the story coming here is the head on Alderney now was I knew him in the UK when he was working in Swindon, and he was the head of the secondary school in the Falklands. He went to Alderney and took quite a few of the teachers with him. he emailed my wife saying, "Oh, they're looking for teachers for the pool in Guernsey," and we thought, right, well, let's try it. So she applied for Zoom interview. We sent mother-in-law over here to look for a house on strict instructions that it's not a holiday home. We're going to live here because there's a big difference. And we've been here three. This is our 4th year, and I think we're going to stay. I mean, golly, I've bought a business, you know, so I think by hook or by crook we're going to do our best to try and stay.
So what do you like about the life on Guernsey then?
Oh, mate, it's it's like the Falkland Islands, but with benefits. You know, you've got supermarkets and you've got transport links. I know people complain a lot about transport links here, but I'll tell you, it's wonderful compared to the Falklands. You can go 11 weeks down there without a flight.
Is your partner teaching here now?
Yeah, my wife's a primary school teacher.
Okay, I won't ask what school, but how does she find it?
She absolutely loves it.
Yeah?
Absolutely loves it. It's there's not so much pressure as teaching in the UK, and coming from an island to another island, you kind of get you understand the ethos. You know, you understand the way that island life is. So she loves every minute. Even lockdown teaching, I think she quite enjoys that.
Well, it's a shame what's happened at the moment has happened, because I mean Guernsey does sort of sell itself when people are here, because we are safe and it is a small community, and if you can get on with that sort of thing, it's a nice place to live. But your customer base, is it generally, other than the last sort of year, is it generally cruise passengers?
Well, I suppose it wasn't really difficult to tell. When I took the business on, and there's no shortage of accountants here to look at figures, is there? So I had 2 guys here look at figures, and my friend in the Falklands who runs tourism business look at the figures. And we all did like financial projections of, would the business work without cruise ships?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yes, it will. It will work without cruise ships. Will it work without cruise ships and tourists? You know, no one ever looked at that. Why would you? You know,
no, that's it.
But, well, I mean, consistently last year I was 85% down on turnover each month by month, apart from December. And that was, well, I mean, this time last year I was getting the train ready for its annual test. It's a roadworthiness check it has to have as a public service vehicle, basically an MOT. And I was, you know, after 1 year in business, I just about made it through. Invested everything back into it, but I was running out of cash. The train's 30 years old and it needed a lot of work. I can do a lot of that work myself.
30 years old.
It's done its time. It's 1990. It was first registered in France, but so it needs quite a bit of work, and it's quite complicated underneath. I know it looks like a dolly trolley going around, but it's quite complicated mechanically, and it's all Fiat parts that are discontinued, and they stopped making them years ago. So I'm forever on eBay hunting down parts. But the engine, it's had a new engine in it. I put a new engine in it last May 2019. I put a new motor in, and because the thing is, diesels just don't rev enough here. There's just not enough. But they just don't, and so you tend to glaze up the bores and they blow a bit of smoke. I mean, we've all seen those builders' vans, and I know you're in that kind of trade, but we've all seen those vans blowing blue smoke, and that's because they just don't get the use that they need. And I put a new motor in it, and that was a huge outlay in your first year of trading. I bought the business with nothing, you know. I bought the business with no money. It's a big like a management buyout deal. So I'm very conscious of the fact that I've got to earn, like all of us in small business. You've got to earn to pay those bills.
Yeah. Would changing to electric be feasible at all?
Well, I've looked into it. I think so. I want to. as ever, with the bureaucracy is an absolute killer here, and there's an awful lot of red tape. I find that the departments that I work with, they bend over backwards to work with the legislation for you. You know, they do their best, but it's difficult. And I'm not sure. Well, a fine example is getting a charging point on the harbour on the Albert Pier.
Yeah.
Where, you know, would that ever be a feasible thing? I don't know. There are options, but then one of those trains, an electric one, you're looking at £300,000, right? Which is an awful lot of money to outlay when there's no guarantee of cruise ships. You know?
Exactly. So it's not really financially viable.
No, but what I have done, you know, it runs on a Euro 6 diesel engine, and I'm using the biofuel from Forest Road Garage. I'm using the biofuel. I'm doing my absolute best.
Yeah, it's a good alternative.
Yeah, you've got to be careful though, because you can damage fuel pumps. So every third fill is ordinary diesel, but I'm only doing like 4 miles a day. I mean, let's be honest, it doesn't go very far. Yeah. I know it seems to be always in the way, but I'm not really.
Yeah, I've inquired in the past with yourself about sort of booking like the old pub crawls, the bus parties, but it'd be a Petit train party. But how safe they'd be, I don't know. But you're restricted to St. Peter Port, aren't you?
Yeah, I can really. Although to be fair, you know, and this is the legislation thing. To be fair, last year when I kind of diversified out of just relying on tourism, states were brilliant in allowing. You know, they allowed me to run to the bridge.
Yeah.
And I did some stuff, the park and ride stuff I did, and they were more than happy to accommodate that. So I think we're starting a process where, you know, we can run the train and it can be seen that it's not, you know, I'm not holding up traffic, I'm not getting in people's way. I really want to do something on the West Coast. I think it would really work, but again, it's, you know, holding traffic up down the coast road on a summer's afternoon might not be such a good idea. But yeah, I am at the moment. I'm kind of restricted to St. Peter Port. I did do one pub crawl, but the trouble with pub crawls is people have too much to drink and they're sat on the back of that train. It's quite a lot of clearing up for me the following morning.
Yeah. The potential. Well, I won't go on, but yeah. So you do have to diversify now. We do have to try and adapt what we're doing, because business might be changed for a while to come yet, you know. But it's good what you've been doing. I've seen some of the food tours you've been doing to the different food restaurants around town. They look quite good. It's just like for me and my partner with a 3-year-old, it's quite difficult to organise stuff like that. But they I will say they do look good. Do you get much interest in those?
Yeah, we sold. I think we did 15 of those last year. I think it was about 400 people. So that the idea of that, when I bought the business, that's where I saw the growth was in evening tours and excursions and events for local people. My friend in the Falkland Islands who runs Falkland Island Tours and Travels, I'll never forget, and it came back at me this time last year. She said, always remember the locals, always look after the locals, because they will look after you. And I've never forgotten that. And last year, you know, when I really needed it, it was there. But you have to provide the right product, you know. And I mean, the train is a one-trick pony. Let's be really honest, right? You put people on, you go around, you go somewhere, they get off, you get back on again.
Yeah.
So everything we do, everything I do, it's basically the same. But we add, you know, the food safaris came about. I was chatting to Charlotte Dixon from Guernsey Herman Oysters. Yeah. She runs Edible Guernsey and organises the food festival.
Okay.
And in May 2019, we were chatting about, you know, doing something, and we came up with this idea where we could stop off at 4 or 5 restaurants along the way, and have a taste of Guernsey. And we put 3 together in 2019, and they were brilliant. Loads of corporate interest, and we thought, right, next year, you know, this is the way to go. And to be really honest, last year, that was my saver. you know. And what that does is, it, you know, we're putting 36 people into 4 venues that they may not have been in before. They probably haven't been on the train before, and they're having a taste of Guernsey. And the venues are putting on their own little menu, and it was just such a success. And underneath all of that, there's 7 businesses are gaining, or, you know, are doing okay out of that one trip, and that's, you know, that's immense, especially last year, and this year we're just building on it.
When you do the cruise passengers, do you ever get any feedback on people wanting to come back to the island on holiday? Do you ever see them again?
We get quite a lot of returners. The train, unbelievably, has about 4,500 followers on Facebook. Most of them are abroad, and there are an awful lot of people who come on cruise ships, especially like the Ventura and the booze cruises out of Southampton that come here and then Le Havre and then back to Southampton. Yes, you know, I seen anyone again? Oh, probably, but you know, on a cruise day, we can carry up to 400 people. So never had a complaint about Guernsey. People love it. They do think the train goes right down the island, though. They seem to be a little bit disappointed in that. When I say it will take about 3 hours, they're like, oh, okay. But people love it, you know. And I think that there's a little bit of I know there's a little bit of backlash against cruise ships and cruise passengers, and I think it's going to be, when it comes back, it will be very different. I know that.
Yeah, I know there is. I mean, I asked the question purely just to find out if you had noticed it. I mean, me and my partner have been on a few cruises ourselves, and a lot of the places we've been on 3 cruises. One of them, I think, had something like 12 stops, but none of them was set up like us. Like, they all had deep water berths. We didn't have to tender to any of them. But a lot of them, they had like mini markets set up on the pier, and I think that's something that we lack a little bit. Or town seafront. I mean, there's a lot of competing stakeholders in town for that space. You've got town workers, you've got customers for town that all want that parking. But like I say, the places that we've been, they set up mini markets there, and they're better than just turning up on a pier where there's nothing there. We've been in some awful ones as well. We've been in some that are almost like landing on the pier or where the cranes are in St Sampson's, just really industrial places. But the ones that we went to with the markets and that, they make you feel really welcome. And it's something that the States maybe could think more about, is having, obviously it's probably not the right time to be thinking about that right now, but do you find that the States are they listen to ideas and things like that for yourself?
I'll be really honest. I think they're missing a trick. I think they're really missing out on that. I think you know, okay, 2019 the train carried 17,000 cruise passengers right around our harbour and down the Valette, which of course I can't go down there now because of the landslides. So 17,000 people went round and my tour is basically the harbour and then up to the OGH and back down again. That's basically it. Yeah. So 17,000 people, all with money in their pockets that they want to spend. The average spend of a cruise passenger is 30 quid. My sort of surveys that I've done is they come off the ship, they see the train. I mean, I'm in an absolutely perfect place. I couldn't ask for being a better place. 6 quid on the train, and then they'll go into town, have some lunch. They might find somewhere, and they suddenly find out that there's no tax to pay, especially the Brits, and they'll spend a few quid in town, and then they're back on the ship. But to be fair, so your coach tours are taking people out to, say, Guernsey Pearl. They're going over to the West Coast. They are going to places. So they are going and spending money elsewhere and seeing Guernsey at its best, I think. But you're right. I mean, there's hours on a double cruise ship day, which I don't think will happen again. I don't think we'll get those 2 ships on a day because, you know, at the debrief meetings that we've had, the tourism debrief, we all say 2 ships on one day is ridiculous. No one can cope. we're all at capacity with one ship, let alone two.
Yeah.
Why jam that many people on? That's
is
something
it down to the states to decide that, or is it I mean,
I don't know. It's just the scheduling, isn't it? It's the cruise scheduling, and they don't want to turn them away because as soon as that anchor hits the floor, they're paying, aren't they? So it's I don't know. As soon as the pilot goes aboard, I suppose there's a fee, but I don't really know the sort of maritime aspect of it. But Peterport's a small town. Let's be honest, it's a small town.
It is. I was just going to say that's the thing that we've got to be careful with is how we develop the town, because the cruises we've been on, when we've spoken to people, we found out that people have been on cruises to Guernsey, and we've asked them, how did you find it? And these are English people, and they see Guernsey as what, like England was, well, in the 70s, I suppose. I don't know. They say, oh, it's like when we were nippers or whatever. But they like the look of our old town, and if we did anything too much, it might spoil it for them.
Yeah, but something. I think as it is, I mean, the seafront development plan chops and changes by the minute, doesn't it? I know harbours are planning, stuff. There was a meeting last week. It was marine businesses, so I didn't go, but the next one, my friend went. He runs a marine engineering business, so he went. I'll get some feedback from him. But I think we are missing a trick. There's a lot of heritage, and it's I grew up in West Cornwall, and it reminds me of growing up in Porthleven. It reminds me of living that life, like a pasty for lunch and on the beach and an ice cream and all that stuff.
Exactly, that's the sort of things we were being told.
Yeah, it's here, and it happens right now. I mean, the podcast you did with the guy from Richmond Kiosk, was I just thought that was brilliant, because the kiosks on this island make it. My mum comes over from the UK, absolutely loves it. Nothing better than going to a kiosk, getting some lunch, and then going back later getting an ice cream. So, it's wonderful. You just don't get that anywhere else anymore. It's just gone. And we have the opportunity to develop the town, but also maintain its heritage. I mean, it's easy when you drive past stuff every day and you look out and you see the same view. But I tell you, you go down the Valette with a train full of people on a cruise ship day, and their cruise ships there, you've got Herm in the background, you've got Sark, you've got the castle. It's astonishing. The views are wonderful. And it's easy to miss when you live here the whole time,
Yeah, well, that's the thing they've got to be careful with. Like, I'm not against development around the harbour, but the architecture, it's got to be done sympathetically to what was already there. A lot of it is like Victorian age. The architecture should look, it should fit in
keeping.
And, not just be boxes and glass, stuff that will date fast.
I mean, if you take a wander down Mill Street, I know there's something going on. I walked down the other day. There's some scaffolding up. I think they're doing something, but it could just be an artisan hub, and it is for the chocolate guys down there, the old quarters down there. There's some great small businesses down there, but it could be so much more, And I think that about the Albert Pier on a cruise ship day. Why can't we have small producers with stalls up, selling, promoting their stuff? My friend makes sea glass jewelry. It's perfect for that kind of thing, I did try and rent the old Vivier bunkers on the castle emplacement there. I did. They came up as part of the seafront development plan, and my plan was to not only keep the train in it, and it keeps the train then on the pier, or it keeps it in the harbour, and it would be really handy because it will be flat. But was to then on cruise ship days open that up, like they're having the Christmas market in Bath, like sheds on pallets with people selling their stuff, whether it's the bread guy, the jewelry person, the whoever, and you just put a semicircle of pallet sheds around, and you open it up, and we call it the tram shed or whatever, and away you go, and all of a sudden you've got a little buzz going on, and I just think it could be so much more. But at the end of the day, I've got to try and run this business, and last year was just, like I say, 85% down. It's made me look at a much more diversification this year. I do a lot of work with Iris and Dora, Denise at Iris and Dora is just fantastic. So creative, such great ideas. And the train fits in. We've done Harry Potter nights. We've done tapas nights. We've done a beer and comedy night. We've done so much, and we're building on that. You know, we're coming up with ideas. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago to come up with ideas for this year.
Yeah.
And my plan is, because she never sees any cruise ship passengers ever, and I thought, right, I've shown, demonstrated that I can run this business without cruise ships. So why can't I halve, on a Saturday, for example, halve the amount of trips that I do? Because I try and bang them out before, try and do 9 tours. That's a lot of money. But instead of just banging around town and getting, on, off, is take them up to Iris and Doris so they get an experience, adding value to it. And I think if a lot more small businesses were conducive to working together, we would all get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, it's a shame that you're restricted to town, because I don't know if it actually happens, but a few years ago I had the idea of, because we'd been away on the old little tuk-tuks and things like that, and I thought that'd be brilliant if you could organise with all the different food producers on the island, that you could pop in and they have a little, like a 10-minute tour and a little taster of whatever it is that they produce, and just move on to the next one. You got a tour there for 2 or 3 hours, and it could be a good little earner and a good promoter for the island. But like, obviously, you're restricted on numbers for the vehicle you're using, or like yourself, you're go on.
Yeah, so the train, I can carry up to 50 people. I normally hang it around 36 to 40. It's a bit more comfortable then. You're not all crammed in. On a cruise day, I'll cram them in, but for locals, I don't. I like to do 36 at a time. But going out to the cider place would have been was an idea, but they just wouldn't give me permission to do it. But I think that if I just keep chipping away and don't mess up. So first of all, it was running at night time. States weren't keen on it running at night, so it's got lights. It's not. I'm not an idiot. I'm not trying to have an accident. So with it, they allowed running until 9 o'clock. So okay, great. So like last year, we pushed it to 9:30. So now I can run a bit later into the evening. The park and ride thing, Christmas, the Christmas late night shopping park and ride, that was phenomenal. And I just charged a flat rate for that. But we had so many people who took advantage of parking at Frossard House and then using the train for park and ride. I did it for the Bailiwick Big Day Out, and it's proven that the train is a viable option for park and ride. Now, wouldn't it be great if I could run from, say, Foots Lane to town in the morning and then do one home at night, drop everyone off at work? You know what I mean? It's options, things we could do, things we could try.
I'm just interested on the logistics of that. What route would you take from Foots Lane to town?
I'd just go straight down Rohay, straight down the Grange.
I thought you might have tried to avoid the hill. I don't know what it's like.
No, I'm all right on that hill. It's going up the hill in the wet, but I've put some fancy tyres on the loco, and she gets up the hill all right. She doesn't like the wet, but I put some serious off-road tyres on the tractor unit, and it's not a problem now.
So you managed to turn your year. You managed to turn your year around last year pretty well in the end.
I don't know about turn it round. Survived.
Well, you've added something new to it.
Yes, and I think that's the future. I think cruise ships is the icing on the cake now, whereas before it was the staple.
It was the reason for it being there.
Yeah, it was the reason to have it. It's a tourist attraction. There's no doubt about it. But now it's just going to be the icing on the cake. If we get any this year, well, it would be an absolute bonus. But I'm not planning on them coming. I'm not. No way. I'm not. It's just not worth going, okay, so in July I might earn so much. There's no point planning for that, because I had all that in place last year and it just went out the window in one fell swoop. I was looking at the... Sorry, I was
just going to ask, on a normal week then, how often are you actually working yourself driving?
Okay, so I drive it myself all the time.
You don't have anyone help you at all?
Pardon?
You don't have anyone help you at all?
There's a couple of guys I could call. 2019 was my first year, so I just did it. You know, I just went in flat out, and having driven trucks all over Europe, you know, doing 15 hours or 9-10 hours driving a day, 6 days a week for years and years. It's not a problem for me, you know, and I'm only driving around for half an hour at a time, and then it's 20 minutes off. So I drove it all the first year. Of course, there's no driver's hours here, so you can just do what you want within reason. But I don't, you know, because I'm, you know, you can't, you know. I sort of do 11 till 3. That's my hours. So it's not as tiring as it would be driving a truck or anything.
Plus, those sound reasonable hours. Is that 7 days a week or?
Yeah, it was 2019, 7 days a week. Yeah, and on a cruise ship day, I'd push it more. I had a guy driving for me. He did a few. He'd come and chop me out for a couple of hours over lunchtime. But I, to be honest with you, there's only one guy that I would trust driving it.
Right. Okay.
I've had a few guys come around with me, and they get scared. It's like, well, everyone gets out of your way, mate, and you only do 12 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Plus, it follows you exactly where you go. It's not a worry. But the thing with it is, it's licensed here as an omnibus, so you need to have a Class D license, which is a coach or a bus. So all the CT plus guys driving around, well, a lot of those guys have got automatic licenses, so they can't drive a manual. So there's only a few people on the island with the manual license.
All right.
And most of those guys work for coach companies. So why would they, you know? But I do have one guy who's like, you know, if you ever need me, just give me a shout. A couple, actually, there's two. But I did employ, last year I had 7 staff on and off, a lot of casuals. I had one full-time lady and a girl at weekends who was brilliant. They're both brilliant. And then quite a few students. And they loved it, you know, and I don't pay peanuts because I want people to smile all the time. And it's on a cruise day, it's a long day, and you've got a lot of people that are quite stressed. You know, why they get stressed and fight over seats on the train, I don't know, but they do. And you just got to smile all the time. And, you know, and I say to them, you know, I'd pay you quite well because this is my expectation. It's as simple as that. And, you know, you smile, you wave, you're polite, you're nice to them. And because impressions last, we are representing the island. We are the first port of call for someone coming off a ship for somewhere they've never been. So we've got to be, you know, the face of the island. And and that's another thing I learned in the Falkland Islands, you know. And plus, with that, if they're American, they'll tip you. You know, so although to be fair, you know, the first year I did, in 2019, when I was driving it, I had £1 in tips, and
really?
In the Falkland Islands, I had enough tips to fly to the USA, for Christ's sake.
Well, if you had the chance to ask or to direct the states to do something that would make your business better, easier, what would it be?
Have a serious look at the legislation and just allow small business to grow. We are not trying to do people in, you know, none of us are. We're trying to make a living. We're trying to bring something new and provide a service that we've seen a need for. And we just need an open doorway to be allowed to do it. I think here there is far too much red tape. It's too obstructive. Finding somewhere to park the train, oh my God, it's, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, well, I just want to park it somewhere, you know. I could park it on the pier every night, but you know, I'd just get the kids that hang out in the bus terminal climbing all over it. But you know, I can't. I'm not where I park it at the moment. I'm not allowed to work on it, which is ridiculous.
From my perspective, with regard to our government, it's it's like survival of the fittest for small business as far as they're concerned. That's how I see it. Other people may see it differently, but they concentrate too much on maybe not necessarily concentrate too much, but they don't concentrate. They don't put a lot of attention on us, on the smaller business. It's all
No,
the
I think you're
bigger.
right. I went to a Chamber of Commerce lunch, and I've I don't know. It just seems to be big fat cat business in there ticking a box. I may be
Yeah.
wrong. I don't know. It's just the impression I got. And you
See,
know,
lots of us. I'm assuming you're the same. You said you were a lorry driver and things like that. I was a lorry driver. I was a road digger, and that we've sort of built businesses from either through necessity or through having a good idea and actually having the drive to go ahead and do it. A lot of people in these bigger businesses, they've gained qualifications, they've gained experience through a corporate world, and they they're well trained. Like I wish I had some of the opportunity to have some of the training that they've had, because my business might be better. It's actually something I'm trying to work on at the moment with the GTA and economic development. Is that a program, like an intensive program of essential skills for small business people is put together. The kind of skills that I'm I'm happy to admit that I'm lacking, that I would like to have, and I just don't even know where to start to get the training. You know, I can look around online and find training guides, free resources, things like that. But it'd be nice for the states to actually say, okay, look, we've had this really crap year. Uh, we'll give you this. We'll do this for you. So a
yeah,
program of free training, and it's not a lot. It's investing in the future. It's like give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach him how to fish, and he sort.
yes, yes. Even if it was marketing on a zero budget, or if it was, you know, I mean, I spent years in working in a special school for very naughty boys, and we did an awful lot of training on body language and communication, and even if it's that on how to communicate, because that's quite hard,
It is.
and talking to people so you don't upset them is quite hard. Now I've got
Yeah, I've got to
I
learn
know
that.
I know you can't see me at the moment, but what my wife's always telling me is like, smile, for Christ's sake, stop frowning. And I'm like, well, I'm not. Inside I'm really happy and jolly. I might have my dad's upside down smile, but I am quite a jolly guy. It's
Yeah,
just there's a lot on my mind. There's a lot on my mind, and especially on a day when I've got 400 Americans on my train, because every one of those is a £5 million lawsuit just waiting to happen.
yeah.
So you've just got to, just
It's those
communication. I think
yeah, it's
how
those
to
soft
retain
skills
staff.
some of us lack.
Yeah,
The
and it's hard. I'm really. I don't know about you, but like right now in lockdown, I've got my two boys. They're both, one's at primary, one's at secondary school. So we've got homeschooling. My wife's teaching from home. All my tools are locked in my train locomotive, which is locked in a workshop I can't get into because it's gone in for its test. Well, I'm not allowed to go out and work on my train carriages, even though I want to. So what could I be doing? I could tidy up my blooming office, is what I could do. But I walk in there and just look at it and walk away. I'm so unorganized, it hurts. I now have, because I went limited, I incorporated the business in the end of July. It just seemed like the right thing to do because the accounts would be so easy for 2020, and so I've incorporated now, and it's made it so much easier having an accountant. It's just made it so much easier. But then there's a monthly bill I've got to pay, and here we are back in lockdown, But
yeah,
I'm so disorganized. Some like bookkeeping, basic bookkeeping is something I need to do. Yeah, I can do that online. Wouldn't it be great to go and sit somewhere in town with a bunch of other people like yourself and small
hmm
business owners? We start networking, we start talking, and all of a sudden, things start happening, don't they? That's how it all
Well,
works.
it's another little soft skill that I think, because we haven't come through these large or corporate organisations, that we lack is that networking. Because a lot of the networking stuff that I see that's advertised through the digital greenhouse and whatnot, when you don't see many people like myself on there. I mean, we just go out and do things. But I do think networking would be beneficial for things like that. It's just that we don't really see the value in it. I am starting to now, but I still feel uncomfortable because a lot of the people that go there, they're not really the people that. A lot of them are in
No.
digital or marketing or stuff like that. I know it's all beneficial to me, but it would be nice to have more people there that are in the same sort of boat, you know?
Yeah, just running, doing their own show and trying to make a living, and
Yeah,
that's
and that's the
trying to
sort of
sort of,
that.
yeah. I mean, I um I looked at labour force when I first arrived, but I have absolutely no skills whatsoever in building trade. It's one of the things I've never done.
Well,
But
it's
I
not.
was looking for
Go on, sorry.
I was looking for driving, like agency driving work.
Yeah.
Of course, when you first arrive, you don't know what the setup is. Down in the Falklands, there was nothing like that. You just word of mouth gets you a job, and all of a sudden you're away. But here I went, I drove trucks I drove for Channel Seaways,
Yeah.
but because my wife was and driving Arctics here is an experience, isn't it? Flipping heck, but.
I haven't actually got an Arctic license. I did go to start one. I mean, if you had a lorry license over here in pre '96, you automatically got your Arctic license. If you got your
Wow.
lorry license after that, you had to take your articulated lorry test, which is those big, long 40-foot trailers that you sort of.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm when I worked on the electric, I'm used to driving a lorry around with a towable compressor on the back, and they're short, and you make a little mistake, you've got to start again, but it's all quick.
yeah.
And I thought, well, driving a trailer like that, it must be slightly easier because you've got longer time
It
to deal
is.
with it. But
It is. The longer it is, the easier it is to move around. But
I didn't find that. I've got to be honest. So I got taken into Portmanford car park and had to spin round and then reverse. And you make one small mistake, you need to adjust it straight away. You carry on. That's it. You've got to start all over again.
yeah.
And
I,
it's not for
I
me.
went to I took a container 20-foot container to Guernsey Building Supplies for Seaways, and I drove in. And I said, "Where do they turn around?" He went, "Here." I went, "You're joking, right?" No, they spin it around in the yard. I was like, "You're kidding me." He's like,
They
"No,
were
no
rebuilding a
problem."
wall later that
Oh,
day.
but then, I when we worked in Australia, I drove 3-trailer road trains for a bit for an Irish fella out to the iron ore mine, and the test for that was a drive around the block
Yeah.
at the industrial estate, put it, and then take it all apart and put it all together again in a straight line. And off you go. And that was they're over 100 feet long with and looking at about 80-90 tons. And so when I started driving the train, he went, "Well, it is 60 feet long." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's no problem." But I'm going to get a sign made up this year to go on the back that says, think about it, especially to cyclists. And I ride a bicycle. I love riding my bike, and I encourage my boys to ride their bicycles. But I'm going to put a sign on there like, "Think before you try and come up the inside of me, mate, because if I'm turning left, I won't see you."
Yeah.
And it's I do find a lot of people here have kind of like got their mind in neutral when they're driving the Range Rover to go shopping. Yeah, well, I shouldn't really say that.
No. Well, I've sort of exhausted the questions that I was going to ask you, Andy. If you've got anything you wanted to add while people are listening.
Not really. I just think this is such a brilliant idea. I just the other night, or last night, wasn't it? I listened to that to your first one. And I was astonished, and I thought, wow, this is great. And that's why I contacted you. But I think for me, I've throughout all this COVID-19 stuff, I know people have gone out of business. The guy on Jersey with his train, he hasn't run his train at all. He did a few free trips just to get some air in the tires. He hasn't run it. And at some points over during the summer, we were the only train in Europe running. And at Christmas, we definitely were. Yeah. And that's all down to having, and what I would say to small businesses out there is, don't panic. Just think outside the box. Start thinking differently, and it will work. I've made no money, but I've survived, and that's all I want to do. this next 12 months as well is survive. Just get enough to keep the business going. And you can do it if you just take a step back and think, what can I do differently?
Well, just in case anyone's listening to this from outside the Channel Islands, we're in Guernsey and we were locked down till, I can't even remember, it was sometime in May, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then we were pretty much free of all social distancing, masks, everything up until this Saturday, where we had 4 community cases. They didn't know where it had come from, and we've gone instantly back into lockdown. And we're going to be here for a minimum of 2 weeks, and then after that, they've got to figure out where we're going from there. So all these businesses that were locked down for, I don't know, 8 to 13 weeks, whatever it was, at the beginning of the year, and trying to recoup their money and build their money back up, we're now back to square one. So that's where we are at the moment. So we're
and it's a small community, it's a small island. There's not that many people, and to you don't bite the hand that feeds you. You look after the people that are here, and it's not being greedy. Not trying to get too much. I think that's the key. And what I think we've been extremely lucky. I wouldn't be in business. I don't know what would have happened if we'd have been locked down all the way through. If we'd been like the UK through the summer, I don't know what would have happened. My trade didn't start till July really, this year, because of various things. And the track and trace was just impossible to work for me, so I didn't bother. And an important thing is not to damage your brand. A good friend of mine here on the island said that to me. Maintain your brand. It's probably best to park up than go out there and end up making a mistake.
That's what this is part of, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll wrap it up now, mate, because I think we've I don't know, I haven't really kept time of how long we've been going for, but. Thanks for your time, Andy. I'm glad that you wanted to chat. I'm happy that I've got some more content to put out, and I hope you're well. And I hope we're all back trading again in 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully, and everything will be good again.
Well, thanks so much, Ross. Thanks for getting back to me, and I think what you're doing here is brilliant, and it sort of fills me with enthusiasm. So take care, mate. We'll catch up. And there is advertising space free on the train if you want some this year.
I'll take you up on that for sure. I hope you remember it. This is being recorded.
All right, thanks very much.
All right, nice one. Cheers for that. I'll speak to you later. Cheers. Bye-bye.